Father in heaven, we surrender everything into your hands. You know us. You know each one of us. You can read our hearts. You can see our minds. There's nothing we can hide from you because you are an awesome God and you love each one of us. That if we have an attitude of surrender and allowing your Holy Spirit to lead us, you will pour out your special blessing to each one of us. We ask that now as we begin to study your words because we love you and you love us so much. This we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. The whole chapter of Luke chapter 15 has been about the restoration of things that were lost and then later on were found. We are reminded that our good God, our great God, cares and places great value on each individual. I'm sorry, they're just telling me that they're on and watching right now. Folks, you don't have to tell me because I'm going to turn off my phone, okay? Don't tell me that you're watching now so I can continue on. Otherwise, we'll end up 1 o'clock here. In this series, we have seen a shepherd going out all way, seeking for how many lost sheep? 1. Let's see if this is working. Lost sheep. We have heard a woman who was moved to search for 1 lost coin. We have seen a father looking for and receiving home back again 1 lost son. Now, very often, when the stories are preached, you hear about the lost sheep, the lost coin, the lost son, but very often and rare day that you hear about the elder son or the lost brother. As I've said in my introduction when we started this series, the first one, there's plenty of sermons that you have heard about this already. Plenty of lectures that you have attended about this series already, most especially about the lost son. In the lost son itself, we have 3 parts that we have covered. And then we have invited a guest, which is Pastor Jeff, who's also watching right now, discuss a little bit about that. And now there are 2 parts in this series about the lost brother. Because rarely that when these stories are preached, that you can have a good day and best day in hearing about the lost brother. I wonder why is that? Because I think for some folks, they try to avoid this story about the lost brother because it hits too close to home. So when Jesus was walking or was talking about the lost things, there are several kinds of people in attendance and listening in. Luke chapter 15, verses 1 and 2, Adi read to us. That was actually the context as to why Jesus shared these stories. And so as he was sharing these stories, Jesus was dealing with, listen now, the attitude of all those who are listening happen to be the scribes, the Pharisees, toward those less fortunate individual. Let's look again verses 1 and 2, which says, now the tax collectors, we don't want them coming in our house or calling us, and sinners, they are everywhere. Some of them are walking on the streets, and plenty of them are coming to church. Would you agree? They were all gathered around to hear Jesus. Verse 2. But the Pharisees and the teachers of the law. Now, let me clarify. The Pharisees and the teachers of the law. These are those who have doctorate in theology. Mattered or murmured or started gossiping to one another and said, this man, look at him, dressed in a unique barong. I call this barong. Welcomes sinners and eats with them. That is the context as to why Jesus said this. Sinners refer to the Jews who did not keep the Mosaic law in their time and were looked down by the Pharisees and the religious people and the teachers of the law. And so the story of the older brother is a picture of one who is a member of a church, but who, sadly, has no relationship with the Father. You will see why, towards the end, that this brother might be in the Father's house, and yet he is lost. He might be physically present in all Sabbath school classes, but his heart is in the far country. Do you want me to go on? For the next few minutes, let's turn our hearts heavenward and allow the Lord to speak to each one of us as we consider this story. Part 1. There are 3 things that I want to share with you about the lost brother today. Number 1 is this: the position he held in the family. Our first encounter with the big brother is in verse 25, first part, letter A. Meanwhile, the older son was in the where? Field. He is in the fields. In short, he is busy doing his father's business, while his younger brother has been off in the far country having fun. This older brother has stayed home and he has kept up his family business. He has been working for the father, busy in the fields. He is the older brother. And as such, by law and practice, that he is entitled to 2/3 of his father's possession according to the Old Testament practice. Specifically, the book of Deuteronomy, verse 12. Now, his younger brother has already received his part of the inheritance. Therefore, everything belongs to him now. Correct? When his father dies, not only will he receive his father's possessions, he will also become the head of the family, and much has been given to this older brother already, and more is on the way. In reality, he is in a place of privilege as an older brother. Now, at this point of the story, though, from every outward appearance, the older brother is in good fellowship with the Father, and all is well. Do you follow? But remember that he is a picture in this story of the Pharisees, scribes, and the religious elite to whom Jesus is speaking of. Now, these were people who were also in place of privilege. After all, they had been given the law and the revelation of the coming of the Messiah. They had been given the truth from all outward appearances. They were walking in that truth. The Pharisees and the scribes looked good to men, but there was a problem within their hearts. Do you want me to continue? The problem was this: of the older brother, which Jesus is trying to illustrate, that they were present while Jesus was speaking, that in this story, the older brother represents the Pharisees, the scribes, and the religious elite. And here's the problem: they were judgmental. Do you want me to continue? They were critical of others. They were self-centered, and the Lord knew it, and they were lost. They were lost. So the older brother comes near the house, and something happens in verses 25 down to 27, and it says, when he came near the house, what did he hear? Music and dancing. When Aiden and I just play a little music there, we dance a little bit together. I want to have fun with him. So we play a little music, then we dance together. I'm not a good dancer. I don't like to dance, to be honest. But I just want to play with my kid. So I'll try my best. When his older brother, and I don't know where he is now, Alden is a good dancer. This boy came to the house, heard the music and dancing. Verse 26 says, so he called one of the servants and asked him, what's going on? Verse 27 says this, your brother has come, he replied, and your father has killed the fattened calf because he has him back safe and sound. Safe and sound. Just listen to this conversation carefully. I'm sensing a problem here. He had a problem with the music and the dancing. Do you think that's a big problem? That's not it. We're just starting, by the way. Because number 2 says this. The problem that he had with the festivity is this. Verse 28 says this. The older brother became what? Angry, and refused to go in. For his father went out. So his father went out and pleaded with him. I'm sensing a big problem when he heard the music and heard the dancing based on the report of the servant. He refused to come in. He was very angry and doesn't want to go in. So his father went out and pleaded. So when this brother hears the why of the celebration, He doesn't want to go in. He doesn't want to go into the party. His father comes out gently and pleads with him to come in with the others. His reply to his father says all about our older brother's heart. Are you ready? In verse 29 it says, "But he answered his father, 'Look, all these years I've been slaving for you and never disobeyed your orders. Yet you never gave me even a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends.'" You remember when I started with the younger brother, when the younger brother requested for his share of the inheritance, we thought that was a little harsh request. Did we not? But look his reply here. Is this a little harsh reply to the father? I assume so. Because he reminded his father of his faithful service and then complains that he has never been given a party for what he has done. You know, I don't have a brother, as you all know. I'm the only boy in the family. As a matter of fact, my dad told me that I am his favorite son. And I believe him. I believe him. So I don't have a brother. That means I don't know what it looks like to have a brother. And so growing up, my parents, they have this small rice field that they cultivate and takes care of. One day, as I was walking with my dad in the field, he said this to me, and I still remember. I was still a small boy back then. I'm still small now. I'm a small man now. He said, "Son, this is all yours. So learn everything. Learn as you can how to take care of it. Learn how to prepare it, plant it, and harvest it. And then, for some reason I couldn't explain why, there's this inner feeling as my dad was talking to me, I had a self-talk. I'm not talking to myself, just in my mind. I said, well, I'm not sure if this is the kind of life that I want to have. So I wish I had an older or younger brother to talk to about it. And because it's okay for me that I can let this go, this piece of land, to let it go with no problem at all and give it to a brother. No problem at all. To give it away to my brother. But then, several years ago, Mount Pinatubo erupted. Have you heard of that story of Mount Pinatubo in the Philippines? Mount Pinatubo erupted and the lava flowed, covered everything. We lost that rice field, gone forever. So my folks devastated about it. Anyways, I'm not sure what kind of relationship these brothers have had. I'm sure that they probably like each other, or perhaps not. Maybe they don't like each other. But there is obviously something wrong with the way the older brother is looking at what is happening here. Think for a moment. He should be happy or overjoyed that his long-lost brother has returned home. Right? But in contrary, all he can do is whine, pout, complain outside the house. When Alden told us that he's coming back home, he's not here, so we can talk about him today. Oh, he's here. Let's talk about him anyways. Well, I called him and I said, Alden, you know, here's what's happening here. And Alden says, Dad, don't worry. I'm coming back home. So we had a family meeting. We always have family meetings. When we have family meeting, we call family meeting. Everybody's going to be in the meeting. Via phone, teleconference, whatever. We had family meeting. Aiden was there because he's part of the family, so his voice is very important in the dialogue of a family meeting. So he heard that Alden is coming back home. Aiden asked when. So it started in about 3-4 weeks. Aiden started counting all the days. He's very excited to see his older brother. He said, how many more sleep? Okay, 3 meals here and 3 meals there and 3 meals here. And the first meal I'm looking forward to, Aiden says, is a meal with my brother. He was so excited. When the day finally came, I'm not sure if Aiden is still excited about a meal with his brother now. But he was excited. This older brother we're talking about, nah, he was not. Look at this verse. But when this son of yours, he did not even call him brother. When this son of yours, who has squandered your property with prostitutes, comes home, you kill the fatted calf for him. You see, the older brother could not even call the younger son as his brother. Instead, this son of yours. You see, those words betrayed the fact that the older brother thought that he had a relationship with his father because of his work. He served his father not out of love, but out of a desire for something he could benefit from. He even thought of himself as a being in bondage in his father's house. Do you want me to continue? Because Jewish tradition and culture, it was considered to a utmost disrespect for a young man to argue with his father the way he did. Did you hear that, Aiden? Why is that? Because this older brother did it in front of the servants and the guests. He brought as much or maybe more disgrace upon the father as the younger son. Because he did what he did in public. Notice how this older brother handled his anger. The original translation says that he attacked, he criticized, and he blamed. This tells us that the older brother's heart is away too far from the father. But remember, this brother is a picture of the Pharisees, of the scribes, and the religious elite who knows the Bible, to whom Jesus is speaking of. There were people who were in a place of privilege. After all, they had been given the law and the revelation of the coming of Messiah. The Pharisees and the scribes looked good to men, but there was a problem within their hearts. There was a big problem within their soul. Do you want me to say it? There are people who can only attack others, criticize others, place blame on others, but themselves. I'm sorry, I have to say it. And Jesus dropped the bomb of grace and mercy in the last two verses. Here it comes. The petition he heard from the Father. Verse 31 says this, "My son," the Father said, "you are always with me. Everything I have is yours." The Father reminded him that everything was already his. In fact, the Father was saying, "I value you, our relationship together, more than I value your works." You see, this brother could have enjoyed fellowship with the Father anytime he wanted, but apparently he was too wrapped up within his own self and narrow-mindedness to realize it. What's worse is that this boy wanted what the Father had, but he did not want the Father. Verse 32 says this, But we had to celebrate and be glad, because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found." You see, a lost one had been found. One considered dead, and one was alive again. But not for this brother. But not for this brother. Luke chapter 15, the story of these two sons are both lost. The younger son was lost in the far country. The elder brother was lost in the father's house. The younger son was lost hedoist. He lived for pleasure. The elder brother was lost moralist. He lived to maintain appearances. Tim Keller, in his book, The Prodigal Father, says this: "The bad son was lost in his badness, but the good son was lost in his goodness." You see, the older son was indignant after seeing his father's action. This older brother may have worked hard and faithfully tended the fields, but he was lost in his father's house. But there was no awakening, there was no honesty, and there was no action. The truth is, he too was a prodigal son. He too had a heart that was far from the Father, and so he too was lost. But he did not see it. Tim Keller puts it this way: the bad son was lost in his badness. The good son was lost in his goodness. Folks, you may never have been to a distant country. You may have an impressive religious resume. You may have followed all the rules. You may have read the entire book from cover to cover, thinking of all people you know in the distant country who really need to hear it. But I wonder that if you are the one Jesus has been talking all along. When the older brother was in the field, the father left the celebration and went out to him. He engaged the son directly. What does this tell us about God? God longs a real relationship with you and with me. That whenever your life resembles the older or the younger, you see, Even after the younger son's insulting choices and reckless living, the father embraced him with kisses and hugs. And then after the older brother's harsh words and disrespect, the father lovingly explained himself, and the man would never have had to explain himself in ancient times. But he did, because households were not democracies, they were dictatorships. Yet the father answered the older brother's anger with gentle patience and grace. We expect God to be angry and harsh father who demands justice. But through Jesus, He gives us love and grace, even when we don't deserve it. Right? Ultimately, the story of Luke chapter 15 is not about the two sons who disobey. The story of Luke chapter 15 is about a father who loves you and me unconditionally. That's the story. Now, there are two ways you can be lost. You want to hear it? Two ways you can be lost. One way is to break the rules and do as you please, because this is how the younger brother lived and he was lost. The second way is this, is to keep all the rules and be good, because this is how the elder brother lived and he too was lost. I don't want to confuse you. Here's why the reason. We don't get this sometimes because we equate being good with being saved. Right? But if you are only being good to earn favor with God, I'm sorry, then you are lost. But if you keep the rules so that God will have to hear your prayers and bless you, sorry, you have missed the point. Because the gospel is not be good and you will be saved. The gospel is be saved. Have Jesus in your heart. Surrender yourself to Him. Byproduct, you will be good. But don't worry about it. Because that's not your job. It's the job of the Holy Spirit. That's the job of the Holy Spirit. All I needed and experienced in this life is the grace of God and the power of the Holy Spirit. Because looking at this chapter, and you will find that everyone is happy about the lost sheep. Oh, the shepherd was happy. About the lost coin. Oh, the woman was happy. The story of the lost son, the father was so happy. Very, very happy. The servants are happy. The relatives are happy. The guests are happy. And the only misery in this story is the older brother. He was not happy when his brother came back home. Let me tell you this, though. That's the message right there. That you are precious and highly valuable in the eyes of God. I can even pronounce the word. Aiden is keep on correcting me. Valuable. But that's it. That's the story. So to conclude, let me ask you this questions. Of all the stories, have you ever noticed that this is an open-ended story? Every one of them? They are open-ended story. Did the older brother ever came into the party? We don't know. But I think Jesus left it this way. Open-ended stories. For a reason. And here's that reason, that every individual must write his or her own ending of the story. You are writing your own story. How do you want to end your story? Just like these lost items that were found, the stories are open-ended story. You and I are writing our own story. How do we want to end it? We are privileged to know now that we know what's going to happen in the end. Don't we? We know who's going to win in the end. Jesus is the victory. He's the answer. We know who will win. And so if we are in that winning team, the J team I call it, J team, Jesus' team, then you will be assured that you will be winners as well. Question is, how do you want to end your story? Sooner or later, some of us, probation will be closed. It could be physically or it could be spiritually. Before that ever happened, I would like to appeal to you all to have Jesus in your hearts from now on, because whatever happens down the end, you will be victorious because you chose to be in the winning team. You are precious and highly valuable in the eyes of God. Great God in heaven, thank you so much for Luke chapter 15. This particular chapter has been written for a reason. For us to know that you love us so much and we are special to you. We pray, oh God, that you please continue to lead this church closer to you, that everyone may see your will, your mission, and your purpose for each one of us. And so we ask that you please bless each one of us with one accord of love, unity, and understanding. Thank you for hearing and answering our prayers. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
To reach a friend with the Christ-centered message of hope and wholeness. This has been Anderson SDA Church in Northern California. Thank you for joining us. For more information, visit our website at andersonadventist.org. We look forward to seeing you next time.